What is the Beach Boys' true masterpiece? There's actually a few contenders. It's certainly not any of the early ones. They have their moments, but are generally not very good. Sitting through 30-odd minutes of In My Room and Be True to Your School is no one's idea of fun. Not mine, anyway. All Summer Long and the Beach Boys today are steps in the right direction, but Summer Nights was their first truly great record. Pet Sounds was discussed in the last award-winning video. I don't like it. Smiley Smile, although showing flashes of genius, was a deeply flawed and frustrating album. However, after that, the Beach Boys entered their golden period, releasing classic after classic in the form of Friends, Wild Honey, 2020, Sunflower, etc. Their true masterpiece is, of course, Holland. Released in 1973, Holland is something of an oddity in the Beach Boys' discography, not only because of Brian Wilson's near total absence from the recording process — he has only 2 writing credits on the entire album — but because of the band's insane decision to decamp from California and transport an entire mobile recording studio to a rented farmhouse in Bam, Bruges, outside of Amsterdam. It should surprise no one that the logistics were a nightmare. Customs delays, technical failures, and cultural dislocation plagued the sessions, which became almost disastrously expensive. With Brian, increasingly reclusive and mentally fragile, uninvolved in the day-to-day process, it was the late, great Carl Wilson who emerged as the de facto leader, but with Dennis Wilson also beginning to assert his voice as a songwriter, and the South African Johnny-come-latelys helped pushing a more soulful and progressive sound. Now, I don't want to seem like I'm picking on poor Brian by singling Holland out for the highest praise. In the last video, I lambasted Pet Sounds, which is essentially a Brian Wilson solo album, and now I'm claiming Holland, an album he was barely involved with, is their best. Do not read this as a criticism of Brian W. B. Wilson is responsible for some of the greatest pop rock songs ever written, and I'm not going to insinuate in even the vaguest terms that Holland is their best because Brian was absent. It just is their best. The stars aligned. Had Brian been mentally stable and more involved, Holland might have been even better. Besides, there's this weird synergy in the Beach Boys. Brian Wilson is the main songwriter, obviously, but even the stuff that he didn't write still manages to sound like he might have. The Al Jardine penned California is one of the most Beach Boys sounding things the Beach Boys ever did. Maybe the Beach Boys is actually a brain parasite or something. Sail On Sailor. Team of writers on this one, 5 of them. God knows how that works or what the individual contributions were. The maximum any song should have is 3. One person writes a chorus, another chips in a verse he's written and thinks it might go well with the first guy's chorus, and then some other guy writes the words. I don't see what's left for anybody else to do. I've always said that any song with more than 3 credited writers is some kind of tax scam. Apparently, Van Dyke Parks salvaged a Brian Wilson demo and pushed for its inclusion on the album. Maybe Dick Van gave himself a credit for fishing it out of the bin. It's not the strongest Beach Boys album opener, but it's still a solid tune. It was the album's lead single and remains one of their best-known songs, post Smiley Smile, apparently. The internet says it was a staple of classic rock radio, though I never heard it there. South African Johnny Come, Blondie Chaplin handles lead vocals and, in fairness to him, gives a gritty, soulful performance. The song itself blends soul, pop and blues influences. It's more rhythmically grounded than a lot of the other Beach Boys tracks, with a steady rock rhythm, and you might call it harder edged than much of their material, possibly a result of the Beach Boys trying to find their place in the rock era of the 70s. I have previously mocked the nostalgic, whimsical tone of Pet Sounds, and quite rightly. Compare the lyrics here on Sail On Sailor, which deal with perseverance and determination. There's a weariness in the lyrics, a sense of someone battered by fate, loss and hardship, but also a refusal to give up. The narrator is the sailor. The slings and arrows of outrageous fortune are the rough waters of the ocean. It's a simple metaphor, but a satisfying one nonetheless. A solid start to the album. Steamboat. Here we have a more introspective number with a languid, meandering pace, again a kind of a bluesy feel. One of the Beach Boys' greatest strengths is the fact that they have several vocalists to call from. It keeps things varied, but also means that they've got someone who complements the feel of every song. Here, Carl Wilson takes the stage, and compared to Chaplin's assertive, masculine performance on Sail On Sailor, Carl's vocal delivery here is more fragile, ragged, maybe even a little bit unhinged. The lyrics are cryptic and abstract, evoking imagery of a steamboat moving slowly and steadily, possibly through fog or over unknown waters. I read somewhere it was about the guy who invented the steamboat, but the lyrics feel deeper than that. There's a great vocal interplay between Carl and Dennis, Dennis here handling the lows instead of Mike Love. The guitar solo is absolutely gut-wrenching. It's one of the best guitar solos ever, bluesy, distant, and utterly haunting. The California Saga, Part 1, Big Sur. This starts off with a piano motif that recurs in the Beaks of Eagles before breaking into a gentle, country-tinged acoustic song with a laid-back rhythm. It's got a real pastoral feel. It's not the first time the Beach Boys have sung about the California coastline, but it's the first time they sounded so pastoral and so intimate. It sounds almost homesick, and there's a zen-like calm to it. Part 2, The Beaks of Eagles. This one is bonkers and possibly the album's first misstep. I'm not really sold on the spoken word sections, and I think I might have laughed aloud the first time I heard them, but it's grown on me over the years. I'm always willing to cut a band some slack when they're trying new things, and to give the song credit, it's backed by this soft, haunting melody. Actually, the backing music is incredible. It really didn't need the poetry, to be honest. Pretentious and self-indulgent, but I'll allow it. Part 3, California. Now the suite breaks into a more upbeat, radio-friendly track with harmonies reminiscent of the Beach Boys' earlier material, albeit filtered through the lens of 1970s folk rock. Lyrically, it reads like a travelogue of Californian imagery. I've never been to any of these places, but I can still picture them in my mind listening to this song. Have you ever been north of Morro Bay, Al sings? No, I haven't, but I want Al to take me there. This is one of my favorite Beach Boys songs ever. It sounds like everything the Beach Boys ever recorded rolled into one song, from the bouncing pop melodies of the days of old to the folk rock of their later period. It's a rare Al Jardine solo writing credit, and the song incorporates elements of Cool Cool Water from Sunflower, which is a stroke of genius, the intertextuality making the song and the album feel more profound, like they're part of something bigger and more expansive. And honestly, the Get Yourself in the Cool Cool Water deserved better than it got on Sunflower. For me, this is the album's high point. I love this one. Triumphant and celebratory, ending the suite on a hopeful, affirming note. Also rounds off side 1, and for any school kids watching at home, that's how you do it. The Trader, and this is how you start off side 2. All album tracks should be this good. The Trader is another standout track, written and sung primarily by Carl Wilson. He gives another great performance too. Several times it feels like he's having to reach for those high notes in the chorus, and you think he's not quite going to make it and his voice is going to fail, but it never does. Here we have a two-part song with a dynamic, rhythmically driven first half and a softer, more reflective second half. The two parts don't bear much in common, so it seems counterintuitive that they should complement each other so well, and that the jarring, sudden transition between them seems neither jarring nor sudden, but a natural, organic flow. For what it's worth, I prefer the second half, with its gentle acoustic textures, soft harmonies, pastoral atmosphere, and it has an almost lullaby-like quality compared to the sharper rhythms of the first half. Standout track on a standout album. Leaving This Town. Probably my least favorite on the album, which isn't to say it's bad. I said earlier that all Beach Boys songs sound like Beach Boys songs, except this one. This one sounds like an Elton John song. It really wouldn't be out of place on Goodbye Yellow Brick Road. Another one apparently written by committee, Blondie Chaplin, Ricky Fattar, Carl Wilson and Mike Love. It's elevated beyond mere filler by the beautiful, melancholic, spacey Moog synthesizer solo, which is one of my favorite moments on the album. Only With You. I'm generally suspicious of love songs. I can do without them, honestly, especially slow ballads. We've done well to get all the way to track 8 without one. If you're hearing this album for the first time, and you're a normal red-blooded male like myself or Mike Love, you might be disappointed, but you must have known there was a sappy ballad coming sooner or later. Oh well, you think? Let's get it over with. The song itself? It's not great, but it's not unlistenable either. Is it too sappy? Certainly borderline. Probably you're thinking, I'll maybe skip this one on future listens until... Why couldn't they drag this one out for a few more minutes like in the end of Layla or November Rain? 33 seconds of absolute musical perfection, worth the price of the album alone. Funky Pretty. Last track on the album and one of the few songs with a prominent Brian Wilson presence. It's one of the album's most energetic and psychedelic pieces. Its cosmic funk shouldn't sit well with the more reflective, earthy tone of the rest of the album, but as a closing track it actually works surprisingly well, acting as an upbeat send-off. Great textures on this song, almost otherworldly, and the traded lead vocals give it a loose, jam-like communal, even slightly chaotic energy. The song is both funky and pretty, hence its name. I can only assume it was given its name by a Native American elder, according to traditional Native American naming traditions, and I don't know why this trend never caught on. I, for one, would like to see more of it in the future. So there you have it, 36 minutes, 9 songs, barely a weak moment. Honestly, I feel sorry for the Beach Boys. Most bands rest on their laurels after their first flush of creativity, but the Beach Boys didn't, and at the time, they got little thanks for it. Brian Wilson descended into mental illness after Pet Sounds, and the band struggled alternately with muted critical praise and lukewarm sales. For the record, Sunflower, 2020, Friends and Wild Honey are all classics. Not Surf's Up. I don't care for that one. Like and subscribe.